So if you don't mind for the audience, we have a lot of things to go through, okay? What should happen? What is the solution? What could happen? What is really going on in Iran that the rest of the people don't know about? If you don't mind just starting off by sharing your background. I gave a brief synopsis of your background. If you don't mind doing it yourself, it'd be great. Let's start off with you.
Yeah, it's to make a long story short, since I was 16, 17, senior high school.
In Iran?
In Iran, yeah. That was the first time I was arrested. I was the speaker of my my school, and then the first speech I had, I was elected by the students to be their speaker. The first conference, first speech, they arrested me because I said why the government is not using the new talented minds to fix the problems. And because of that, they accused me of being against the regime. And at that time, I didn't know what they are talking about. Then, I had my first experience of solitary confinement at that age. And it just lasted hours. At the midnight, they released me. But then I went to medical school. I was arrested inside the medical school in Urumia. And I experienced months of torture. I couldn't believe that. Maybe I was 19, 20 at that time. And then by the MOS, Ministry of Intelligence. It was Haftod-o-Panj. It's 1996, I guess, the Clinton.
Haftod-o-Panj?
Yeah, the Persian.
Haftod-o-Panj?
2 years before the revolution.
Right.
Yeah.
2 years before revolution.
Not the which revolution?
But Haftod-o-Panj, you're saying Iranian Haftod-o-Panj? Okay,
yeah.
so yeah, Bill Clinton.
I said 1996. And after that, a lot happened. And the Islamic Revolutionary Court in Urumia gave me 3 years prison. And then they sent me in exile to Bushehr University from the north of Iran to south of Iran. And then totally 19 times I was arrested for 14 years when I was in Iran, since 16 to 30, when my fight was happening against this regime. I wrote several books. And
when did you leave Iran?
No, when I was still, I wrote a couple of my books when I was in prison.
In Iran?
Yes,
okay.
In Iran. And then for the book called Inja Chahnis, This Place is Not a Ditch. For that book, I was nominated to get the Paulo Coelho Prize. And immediately when it was published to the newspapers, that the morning after, the MOIS again, they came to my house, they arrested me. And under torture, at least 50 bones in my body have been broken. And then 2004, Amnesty International released a statement and called me the first witness of white torture in prison. I was under that type of torture, psychological torture, by IRGC in their branch at Eshratabad prison, the center of IRGC in Tehran. And it was a lot. A lot happened to me. And finally, after 5 years and 3 months of prison, I had 8 years prison, and I had 2 open cases. I had death penalty on the top of my head because of being infidel and the enemy of God and these type of things. Then
at that time, what is your faith? What do you believe in at that time?
I was Muslim.
You were Muslim?
Back then I was Muslim, and I was secular, but I was Muslim. And then in 2006, I escaped prison, Evin prison, with the help of, believe it or not, Defense Department. Mr. Richard Pearl, who became kind of my godfather in Washington, D.C. He helped me to escape from prison with the help of some of our friends. I want to name Manda Shahbazi and say hi to her wherever she is right now. And during the Bush administration in 2006, I came to Washington, D.C. I started my journey here. Then I started the campaign for oil sanction. It was not popular when I was talking about it back then in 2006. Oil sanction and clean up the voice of America. These were the 2 big campaigns I started. And then, I met President Bush. I met then later President Trump. I was invited to speak at President Trump's house, and I gave him a signed copy of proposed draft constitution for future Iran, which me and my team in National Iranian Congress, we drafted. I created the I founded the National Iranian Congress, and a lot other things I have done. And the last two things, which I'm very proud of those two, it's the book Comrade Ayatollah. In 2016, I published that book. It became bestseller inside Iran. It was sold 3 million copies in underground market in Iran. And it changed the course of kind of history of looking at Iran, because in this book I revealed Iranian Supreme Leader himself, Ali Khamenei, was the trained agent of KGB. I guess you had Reza Pahlavi here on your show, and he mentioned Khamenei was at KGB's agent in Patrice Lumumba University. He have seen it in my book, the Comrade Ayatollah. And then my last book came last year. It's called The Spirit of the Constitutional Law, which is about the future of Iran. Comrade Ayatollah was about the past, to know our past, what was that, what happened.
Right.
And this one is about the future, which we are going to talk about it.
Fantastic. How about yourself, Doc?
I had a much less glamorous life than Amir did. I grew up in Iran and did my undergraduate in physics in Amir University of Technology, which today is called Sharif University. It's a premier university in Iran of science and engineering. And then I came to the United States. I did my PhD in nuclear physics, and then I became a professor of physics for a few years. And then after a few years of working in physics and doing research in physics, I moved to Ohio State University, where I completely switched from physics to medicine. But I never forgot the stuff I learned in physics, and brought all of that technology and the learning of how to look into mysteries of nature into physics. So I worked in the Department of Radiology at Ohio State University for 8 years. And there in 1996, 30 years ago, we built the world's most powerful MRI machine, operating at a field of 8 Tesla, that could look into the human brain and see fine structures that had never been seen before. And then developed a technology called functional MRI, that you can take images from the brain and apply a lot of physics and mathematical modeling and construct the human mind from the brain images. And that proved to be extremely useful in understanding the inner working of how the human brain, actually how the human mind works. And then I was recruited to Columbia University Department of Psychiatry, and I've been there for the last 25 years. There we are using that technology, the technology of using fMRI or functional MRI, to construct the human mind from the brain, and then compare the mind of a person with psychiatric disorder with a normal person, and find with pinpoint accuracy exactly what part of the brain is not doing its job. And then you can treat regions locally rather than globally. You know that one of the biggest problems we have in today's medicine is that all medicine is really global. If you have a headache and you take a Tylenol, the Tylenol doesn't just go to your head. It goes from your head to your toe. Only a small portion of it goes to your head. And what we call side effect is the effect of medicine where it's not supposed to go. So we have developed in the last 20 years, we have developed a technology that we are offering it in our clinic in New York that deals with psychiatric disorders at a very, very local fashion, and we are treating patients with basically no side effect. You know that the psychiatric drugs have a lot of side effects. So that's my scientific life. But then I've been very active. Amir University, or Sharif University, where I did my undergraduate in physics, is the not only premier science and engineering university, also a premier political activist university. When I was in that university, basically half of the university students were supporters of one armed group, leftist armed group, Marxist leftist armed group, and the other half were the supporters of an Islamic armed group.
The leftist armed group was called what?
The Marxist leftist was called Cherikhay Fadai Khalq, and the Islamic leftist group was called Mujahideen Khalq. And even
Mujahideen today, some would say MEK.
MEK.
Right.
That's right. That's right. And even back then, in all the debates in the university, I was pro-monarch, economic development, against the leftist overthrowing revolutionary ideas. I was telling my friends, in my classmate that, going for revolution, there's no guarantee that you would be able to get your ideals. I know that, all your students, you are very idealist, you love the country, but this is not a good approach to achieve your goals. And the best way to achieve greatness for Iran is really going through gradual economic development. I was telling them that, basically there are two approaches to taking a third world country to a first world country. Mm-hmm. Either you go through economic development, and after you approach certain degree of development, then political development, which we call democracy, will come at the end of political development. That's one approach. The other approach is start with political development and start with democracy, and then expect that the economic development will pursue political development. And I was telling them that if you showed me one country in the world that went through the second path, the path that you guys are pursuing, then I will follow you. You cannot find, you had your ideals were the countries in the former Soviet Union, Russia, Romania, the so-called Eastern Europe, and none of them achieved the ideal societies that they wanted to achieve. But compared to that, look at the first model. Every country that is going from the second world and the third world to the first world, like South Korea, like Singapore, like Malaysia, like Turkey, like Indonesia, they go from a third world country to a first world country through that model. Economic development first, political development next. And even today, I think, not only just for Iran, for all the countries who are seeking, construction of an ideal society, that is the right approach.
When we set out to create a shoe that blends comfort, function, and luxury, we had the choice to make it fast. We had the choice to make it cheap. We chose neither. Instead, we chose Tuscany, Italy. We chose true Italian craftsmanship, each pair touched by 50 skilled hands. We chose patience, spending 2 years perfecting every detail, and we chose the finest quality at every step. Introducing the Future Looks Bright collection. Not rushed, not disposable, not ordinary. Rather, intentional, luxurious, timeless. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.